In this section, I wanted to look at two other types of demand elasticities that economists use to examine goods and services. The first is called income elasticity of demand, and the second is called cross-elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand is defined as the measure of responsiveness of the demand for a good to a change in income. This is, of course, as always, assuming that everything else remains constant. The question that income elasticity of demand is trying to answer is, if my income changes, how will my demand for a given good change? We calculate income elasticity of demand by dividing the percent change in quantity demanded for the good by the percent change in income. I will use epsilon subscript y to refer to income elasticity of demand. We calculate the percent change in quantity demanded in the same way that we did for the price elasticity of demand. We take the difference between the quantities and divide it by the average quantity. In the same way, we calculate the percent change in income by finding the difference between incomes and then dividing that number by the average income. I'd like to emphasize that in your introductory microeconomics course, it is necessary for there to be a change in the quantity demanded and a change in income for you to be able to determine the income elasticity of a good. For a more in-depth explanation of this type of calculation, I encourage you to watch the first video on price elasticities. Unlike with price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand can yield a positive or a negative answer, and the sign in front of the number holds significance. If our income elasticity of demand value is positive and is greater than 1, then we say that the good is a normal good and is income elastic. If you think back to the first few videos, we defined a normal good as one whose quantity demanded changes proportionally with income. In simpler terms, if income increases, so does the demand for the good, and if income decreases, the demand for the good decreases. The fact that this good is income elastic means that the quantity demanded of the good changes proportionally more to a change in income. In other words, a small change in income will bring about a larger change in the quantity demanded. If our income elasticity value is positive and is between 0 and 1, then the good is still a normal good. However, this good is classified as being income inelastic. This means that a change in income will bring about a smaller change in quantity demanded. If our income elasticity value is negative, or in other words, less than 0, then we have an inferior good. An inferior good is one which is inversely related to income. In other words, an increase in income will bring a decrease in the demand for the good, and a decrease in income will bring about an increase in the demand for the good. For a more in-depth explanation of normal and inferior goods, I encourage you to look through previous videos. Cross-elasticity of demand is a measure of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a good to a change in the price of another good. We have two types of goods that we look at: substitutes and complements. Substitutes are goods which can be used in place of another. Consider two goods such as a car and public transit. You can use both to get to your destination, therefore they are substitutes. Complements are goods that are generally bought together. Goods such as burgers and fries or coffee and sugar. When you buy one of those goods, you generally also buy the other. We calculate cross-elasticity of demand in a similar way as we calculated the income elasticity of demand. Let's say that good A is burgers and good B is fries. If we want to calculate the cross-elasticity of demand between the two goods, and we have data regarding the change in quantity of burgers and the change in price of fries, then we're good to go. We take the percent change in quantity of burgers and we divide it by the percent change in price of fries. And again, we calculate the percent changes in quantity and price in the same way that we did for the price elasticity of demand. If we derive a cross-elasticity of demand with a value that is greater than 0, it means one of two things. Either the percent change in quantity and the percent change in price was positive, or that both were negative. In either case, the percent change in price and quantity move in the same direction. For example, if the quantity demanded of public transit increases and the price of cars increases, then we would end up with a cross-elasticity of demand that is greater than 0. This means that the goods are substitutes, because consumers are switching over from one to the other. Conversely, if the quantity demanded of good A increases while the price of good B decreases, we can infer that the goods are complements. If the quantity demanded of coffee decreases and the price of sugar increases, consumers buy less coffee because they have to pay higher prices for sugar.